I studied at Leeds Met, so I think I've taken quite a less conventional route to where I am now. I studied architecture.
You did?
Yeah, but after the first year, I decided that it wasn't particularly the route I wanted to go. Not career-wise, but study-wise. So I came back and joined Benoy directly. So I learned sort of on the job, and as I went through, I was in our Newark office. So, I mean, my father's an architect, and I used to see how stressed he was.
I was told I wasn't allowed to be an architect.
Really? Yeah.
Quite right.
Yeah, if I have some advice for my children, it would be that. But it was always, art was always something that I'd done, or illustration, or everything like that. But I don't know, I didn't struggle with the academic route. It was more, it just wasn't for me. So my dad learned on the job as well, because that was just what they did back then. So he was taken out of school at 16 by practice. And so he learned kind of with work on jobs, and then part-time at college until he got fully qualified.
Yeah.
And you'll find here there's lots of people taking lots of different routes.
Yeah,
And
there's not
lots of
one
different,
set route, is there, to go down?
No.
So some of the directors here haven't been to university.
Oh, right.
So
But
David
do
Coyne.
they have a degree? Did Benoy pay for you to do a degree?
You can do, yeah.
alongside?
Yeah, so another guy here, Ricky, he's got a BA in something or other, not architecture maybe.
Right.
But he's doing his part 2 now through work, so almost 8 years after he's done his first course, or 6 years after he started. So there are a number of ways of doing it. It's not just you have to go to university. You have to go to.
Feel like that hindered you? You felt like
No, not at all. I think I've learned more, especially in the first 5 years of working. I thought I learned more, like being put in the deep end, as it were.
Yeah, so you didn't have that naivety when you came out.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd kind of, having work experience as well always helps. I did work experience in an architecture office. Did the first year at uni, and it set the groundwork for. I knew I wanted to do it still, but just not that particular route. And yeah, so in the first 5 years, I'd learned more than I ever thought I would. And people coming out of uni after the 7 years, so all the part 3s sometimes were, I suppose, even more naive sometimes in the way that they work, because the lack of kind of working in an office or working to set standards.
True, isn't it? Yeah. And if I look back, I wouldn't go to university.
Yeah.
I'd work through. My previous employer, Russ, who was a technician, he'd gone the technical route, but he can still work as in the same. He can't call himself an architect, but he can do the same role. Yeah. So, I took a more traditional way. Yeah. I went to university, but I always worked in offices whenever I could, and in years in between, and started in an architect. So I kind of had a mixture. Yeah. So I always had an understanding of what it was really like. Yeah. But you do get a lot of people who come out and they've just never worked in architecture. Yeah. They are so naive when they come out.
Yeah, I mean some some will come out of university and be perfectly suited to a role, but some will just be that sort of closeted on sort of working in a studio and working
But even now we find there's a lot that are, I think it's fair to say there's a lot that are just conceptual, just art-based architects, and then there's others that know about buildings and build buildings. Yeah. And there is a big split in this practice still. But that's encouraged in many ways, because that allows the people on the concept side to be very fluid and very artistic in the buildings that they're imagining. Yeah. So without being hampered by trying to make sure that the wind stays, the wind doesn't affect it, and the rain stays out, and the floors stand up. So we end up with a mixture here, and I think we're very much split in this office. I find there's a very much, and literally on the floor above where I work, we've got one side of the office that's technical, people doing buildings, and the other side of the office is purely concept.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's very.
And the two don't really mix.
No.
I was going to say, is there a bit of a clash between those two?
Well, only in the technical guys are all swearing about the concept guys because they're trying to deliver.
Expect me to do that.
They're trying to deliver the idea.
Yeah.
You know.
So
there
work
can be
experience.
frustrations.
Yes.
But it leads to a kind of a freer architecture, I guess.
Yeah, I think so.
To be fair, and that's what the company wants is a very free and imaginative architecture. So you'll see the building shapes and colours and sizes and so on are quite
fluid is the right word
fluid.
for them, I'd say.
I think the Ferrari building that's there on the wall is quite. It is typical of that kind of idea. It was a concept that literally got dropped in the desert.
Yeah.
It does look like it fits though, doesn't it?
As a complete concept. I think the scale is something that took everybody by surprise.
Yeah, it's enormous. I think the whole of Newark fits it within the master plan.
Yes.
Have you been?
Yes. Yeah.
It's big.
It's big, but you don't really see it. Obviously, unless you're flying over or in a helicopter, you never see.
It takes you about 5 minutes to drive past it, doesn't it?
Or 50 minutes if your taxi
Well,
driver goes the wrong way.
Can we ask what your typical working week would be?
Typical week. So it completely depends on what project I'm working on or what projects. So normally a Monday morning would be sit down with a team and discuss the week ahead and who's doing what. In terms of work output, it's difficult to summarise to get a typical week. So at the minute I'm working on a medical city in Sudan, which is not something I've ever done before.
What's a medical city?
So we've got this plot in the middle of the desert in Sudan. Nothing around it at all, but it's a lot of the medical care, or a lot of the people in Sudan go elsewhere for their medical care. So they'll go to Jordan, or they'll go to Egypt, or they'll go to Dubai or Abu Dhabi. So a consortium of people have got together and decided they want to build a medical city and kind of provide that healthcare for the residents of Sudan. So it comes to everything. There's a general hospital, there's centres of excellence which specialise in kind of neurosurgery or head and neck. There's residential, purely for all the doctors and nurses and technicians who work there. And then there's retail and mosques and everything else you need. So it is literally, you never need to leave if you didn't want to. Which is, yeah.
So you're building a city?
So, if I rewound, maybe 4 months ago, I was working on a cluster of 5 restaurants. So the week is completely different. You know, the research that you do.
Same project?
No, it's the same client, but different project, different place. It's just whatever's in the office at the time, what works here. So yeah, so the research I'm doing on that is quite broad.
Yeah.
It is quite specialist. So we're working with a healthcare consultant as well. So at the beginning of the week, we'll maybe meet them and kind of run ideas past them and make sure we're creating the right thing. Because unless you're a specialist in that, then I wouldn't know how to put a hospital together or how it stacks up. So we have clients and external consultants to help. So yeah, it's kind of lots of research, lots of drawing and testing, and lots of 3D modelling throughout the week. So I don't know, your typical week
work's much more straightforward. I'm just on one project, and that project is at a different stage, so it's due to go on site next year. So it's about putting together all the parts of the building to make sure they're buildable. meeting with the client every 2 weeks to make sure he's happy with the way it's going and to get his brief. It's also an existing shopping centre in Woking, so just on the outskirts of London. So there's lots of existing issues, and you've got to make sure the tenants are going to be happy. We've got M&S and Toys R Us and Boots and people like that to keep happy and to make sure their space is correct. And my role is just putting together all the technical parts and overseeing the team and making sure everybody's putting things together in a coordinated fashion. So making sure that the structural engineer and the mechanical services engineer and everybody are putting things together and making sure that our team are capturing everything, and that we've got 400 residential apartments in 2 tower blocks. So we're trying to make sure all those are coordinated and work together. So it's much more technical. My week tends to be very much the same every week at the moment, unfortunately, which is just sitting down. We have a team meeting. We make sure everybody knows what we're doing next. We've got a big deadline today to get the report out. So it's making sure everybody knows what's going to go into the report and what drawings need to be updated and what needs to be turned into PDFs ready to go into the main report format. So it's just about organisation, really. That's my role, and so it's each week just ticking things off on the list, on the checklist, and putting the kitted parts together. So that's it. So my weeks will stay very much the same through this period, and this is up to the end of June. Will probably be pretty much the same all the way through to then.
When is yours meant, your city, where is that in the future?
It's very much a concept at the minute. So we started the project in January, so it's still sort of big ideas and kind of sketches and massing models, that kind of thing. The only technical part to it at the minute is, like I say, the healthcare stuff, hospital, making sure that's correct. But it's a master planning concept at the minute.
But you were in it at the beginning, or you saw on the drawing boards at the beginning of Yaz Island, didn't you?
Yes, I was,
Which was the Ferrari master plan.
Take?
So you've seen one go all the way through.
Yes.
Which is interesting for you.
Yes. So that was,
because some people get frustrated with master plans because the period of gestation is so long.
Yeah, from kind of initial idea to being finished can be 20 years. It can be a long process, or it can be.
How long was that one?
Not that long, was it? It was only 4 or 5 years.
From original concept idea to being opened, and there's a Grand Prix there.
Did you have to pitch for that idea?
I think that was a weird one. This was a friend of Graham, or Graham knew someone.
There was the island that was being developed, because it's a reclaimed part of the sea, really, that whole island, and it was all owned by 2 different developers from Abu Dhabi, who the lead project manager for them was a friend of the boss. So he asked him to have a look at it, because they originally wanted an awful lot of retail there, which is what we specialise in.
Oh, right, okay.
So, or what we did specialise in is the business is changing a bit now.
Yes.
Doing a lot more various building types now. So that came along, and then they came up with the idea of wanting a racetrack there. So Simon, who did the master plan, who's our lead he's our global design director. Design champion. He's based in Hong Kong now, but he was in the Newark office at that time. And Simon came up with the track layout, and then he was told, well, Ferrari were looking for a theme park, which is what that is.
That piece in the middle,
in the centre of the under the flight path as you go in to the airport, and at the end of the track.
The piece sticking out the middle of the silver bit is one of those rides that just shoot straight up.
Yes.
And
Back
you
down.
drop down.
Yeah, but it's got the world's fastest roller coaster
Oh my
in
God.
here as well.
Here on this end.
On the edge, yes, near the. Oh yeah, you can see it there. That's the track.
Yeah.
It's a roller
So you sit in a
coaster.
little Formula One car, and it fires you around there at, I don't know,
Ridiculous amount,
Yeah.
200 miles an hour or something.
you have to wear goggles, otherwise you can't see.
I've not.
That
but
started out.
And the Grand Prix track wasn't there obviously, and that's the other side there. You can
Yeah.
see a bit of it there.
It's the
Yeah.
grandstand.
And
on
that's
the
where they
top.
now have the Formula One Grand Prix.
All right. Yeah.
But Simon dreamt all this up and did the doodles. Then we had to pitch then to Ferrari to get the job to do there, and the team went and pitched pitched to him, pitched to their main board in Italy, won the job.
Don't get many of those projects.
No,
That was an
obviously-
exciting one.
Obviously
Mm.
exciting one for
That started out
everyone.
with drawings kind of as big as this table,
Yeah.
like hand drawn.
The chairman was very excited about that one. But of course it also meant
It's
that they could
Ferrari.
open an office in Abu Dhabi, which
Mm.
is started, well, they've got the Hong Kong office by then, but the Hong Kong office was quite small. It was
Yeah.
only about 10 people, I think,
Yeah.
at that point.
We're in 60 different countries, Benoy, apparently, according to
Uh,
your website.
In terms of work, yeah,
Mm.
yeah, we've got
11 offices now.
11 offices now, yes. Yeah, so
Yeah.
we had 4 at that time.
Yes, that was New York, London,
But that's
Hong
not that
Kong.
long ago, is it? So
No, it's grown quite a lot.
I remember you talking about it.
Well, it opened I was in New York at the time when
Yeah.
it was on the drawing boards.
Mm.
So, yes, and I went to the opening. Oh, thank you.
So yeah, that was as a typical week goes. Working on that was
Exciting.
and bizarre.
Yes.
Did you have to go out to the site a lot?
No, because I work mainly kind of front end design and concept design rather than getting buildings on site. So that was
It came to the London office to do the delivery of the because by then we weren't doing anything else on the master plan, were we?
No.
The master plan had been finished, so we just had the Ferrari building. So that building was done here.
So you said that you dabbled in illustration. Did you say that you?
yeah.
Do you continue to draw outside? Of
Yes, yeah, that's something I've always done and something that I used to do quite a lot at work, but as sort of technology progresses and
work?
demands of the job progress, then you can do some sketching, but not sort of to the level you used to do. So it tends to be more something you do outside of work. Just keep your
What kind
hands
of
sharp.
style do you like using?
I'll mainly do pencil sketches or pen sketches. Not so much painting anymore. I know a lot of architects still do paint because that's before the CGIs were about the main sort of. I don't know if I've got any here. No. So the CGIs there, that would have been hand drawn and hand painted, and but yeah, it's completely changed now.
What do you use on your computers?
For work in
Instead of
general.
drawing?
Concept style.
Oh,
stage.
so
It's
you-
different as we go through the stages.
yeah. So at the beginning, you'll do a hand sketch for ideas. Then that'll move on to a program called SketchUp normally, which is, as it suggests, is a sketching, 3D massing, 3D modelling program. Not very technical, kind of real, sketchy massing models. And then from that, there's a number of programs that you can use for 3D massing, and then it will go into AutoCAD and Revit, which are more technical, so hardline, detailed drawings, and then CGIs like that, depending on the project and the detail it's going to. So you'll do
the
something
project I'm
completely
working
different.
on is all being done in Revit, which is the 3D.
Yeah, I think some of the graphic designers use that.
That's
Maybe I should talk
taking
about
over
that.
now from AutoCAD.
Yeah.
So, which well, it has a 3D element, AutoCAD, but it can be, but mainly it's worked in 2D. But now we've gone into Revit, and the project we're on is wholly being worked up in 3D. So right from the start, the drawings are in 3D.
But I'll use, on a daily basis, I'll sketch, and I'll use SketchUp and AutoCAD and Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign, just everything. I think they're quite broadly used across. Yeah. So we've got a graphic department within the company as well. Yeah. And they'll use that, and we've got motion graphics, and an animation team, and yeah. So everything's done in house. We'll do CGIs in house as well for a 3D visualizer. So we don't have to go out and pay someone else to do CGI for us.
The most memorable project in the last few years, would you say it's that one?
Probably, mainly because it's, like I say, it's built and it's quite iconic. I don't think there's anything else like it in the world at the minute. And that was literally sort of changing. That was because a lot of the land was reclaimed land, so before a lot of it was just water. And what they do, they go out on barges and they pump sand and silt and create new bits of land to build on. So the actual shape of the island can be seen from space. It's literally changing the face of the earth to create something.
And the speed. You know, it is incredible how quickly that took place.
I didn't realise it was a theme park as well.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, there are other projects that we've done that. There's a big master plan for London, which again doesn't come up that often. That was pretty central London. That was Court one.
Yes.
So kind of working in your own city is quite good because you got the chance to again change sort of where you live and hopefully for the better.
And walk past them.
Yeah.
How do you continue to stay attractive in the industry?
I think you can't be static, I don't think, within the work that you do and the work they produce. You have to be up to date with the latest software, certainly. You have to do research. I think you have to have a real passion for the job to keep yourself current. I think particularly for me, it's not just architecture, it's product design, graphic design, so everything sort of encompasses, you can incorporate it all into architecture, I think. I think if you just stick to just being interested in a building or a type of building or a type of architecture, then yeah, you'll get stuck and the creative process stops then. So you're taking influences from everything that you see and everything that you do, music, art.
I think standing back and looking at architecture, the interesting thing is architecture is being changed by the software that you can draw in, because buildings have changed shape literally, because we can draw things in 3D, and you wouldn't have got that kind of building if all you had was a drawing board, because you wouldn't have been able to plan it. I mean, there's Ferraris. There's another case again. The curves on that were all worked out in 3D to make sure it was working as a 3D matting.
Yeah, there's no way you could do that.
And there's no way you could have. Yes, there were some original sketches that were passing it, but to get it mathematically correct and to turn it into a structural model and so on, you have to be able to use the software. And so I think that's changed in architecture, because I've been in it long enough I started on drawing boards, and before CAD came, and then in CAD there were certain things you couldn't draw at the time, because curves were difficult. You know, the engineers would say, well, I can't do that because it's curved. Then they got into it, and then suddenly you can do curves, and then the industry catches up, so steel manufacturers start making curves, you know, it all follows on, and so I think it's developed with the software. And that's the interesting thing for me, is that as architecture changed shape literally in the last 30 years because of what you can build from the elements you've got.
You'll notice kind of younger people straight out of university are more than adept at using programs that would take myself and you probably a few weeks to learn there, or a few months to learn, and then, they've already got these skills as they go through. Just the availability of it, and just that sort of mentality of wanting to learn.
And there isn't the I can't do that.
No.
Because it's the how can I do it attitude is different in terms of you know, the generation that's come up with computers. You know, the rest of us that learn backwards, so to speak. We've always been kind of, well, how do you do that? But that's not the way of thinking. So it's a lot more fluid in terms of what you get delivered as well. There's no stops. There's nothing to stop you going forward and doing these until it gets to the stage I work at, which is the technical stage of trying to deliver it, and then things like building regulations and materials that you can buy and so on all come into play, and then sometimes it's not as easy to deliver as you thought it was going to be.
No. Again, going back to this, underneath that red skin is a huge tubular steel frame. So 10 years ago it would have been impossible, probably. Not impossible, but it would have taken months to kind of make sure the steel was correct, the thickness was correct, it could withstand the bending moments needed, its wind resistance. Whereas now in Revit you could create that shape as a 2D shape. You could say you wanted it to be made from whatever steel you want, and it would create that for you. It would create the right piece of metal, it'd section it out, and it almost builds itself. So you're only sort of limited by your imagination at the minute, which is, it gives you a lot more freedom.
Yes. It reminds me of a scorpion.
I think it was one of the influences.
Was it? Can we ask what your inspirations are?
For architecture, again, it comes from all sorts, everything, music, all kinds.
Music do you listen to?
All sorts. So if I'm drawing at home, it will be, I'll listen to classical music normally. But at work, I listen to radio, so 6 music, anything. It's just anything that keeps your mind from not wandering, but you get inspiration from everywhere. I think you can look out the window here, if it's a cloudy day, it's completely different to when you look out and it's bright sunshine, blue skies.
Yeah, I think everybody gets their influences from different places. I mean, we've got a big library downstairs and lots of books to
is that what that's for then? For like drawing inspiration and looking at history?
Yeah, and the library is actually there for picking materials for the interiors team. But we've got also in the
basement,
in the basement space and everywhere else we've got loads of magazines to browse through and get ideas of what other architects are doing, what other furniture designers are doing. You know, just get influences, fashion, anything you can get it from anywhere, really. Because it might just be that you're dealing with, well, how do I, create a nice space, and you see a shape, and you think, that shape would be really nice as the roof or the front or a open space or whatever. So it's just that kind of influence.
Yeah, it's not just
from anywhere,
architecture.
really.
It's
can literally come from anywhere.
Yeah. So it could be a piece of furniture, like you said, or it could be clothing or anything, cars. Yeah. But yeah, it's well, again, travel, I think.
That's what we sold this on. For instance, Mike, who was the lead designer, quoted to Ferrari. He found his favourite Ferrari, 1950s Ferrari, and the curves, wheel arches, were what he used for the inspiration for this. Well, that's how he told the story to Ferrari, and they went with that. They thought that was wonderful. That the building was going to be, one of their most memorable designs. So you can get the influence from anywhere, really.
Yeah, a lot of design websites, and they'll always have different bits of furniture and buildings. Yeah, it can just come from anywhere. It can just come to you. Some ideas come to me in the middle of the night. So always keep a sketchbook by the bed.
Our lecturers say that.
Yeah, that's where some of your best ideas come from, I think. But yeah, I can say travel as well. So going to different cities. I mean, London's so diverse, and the architecture's pretty diverse. But going around to, say, South America, it's massively different. Even Europe, and just going over to Paris, and seeing the historical buildings there compared to here as well.
It's different.
Yeah. Middle East is very strange. Definitely a product of computer design buildings. You can tell. So like the Barbican, some people hate it, some people call it brutalist. I think it's beautiful.
This town here is beautiful.
Some people don't like the concrete, but the forms are amazing. The whole master plan is superb for somewhere in central London. I don't think there'll ever be anything created like this again, especially in London. But then it's surrounded by, just across the road there's a curvy glass 10-storey building, or a 50-storey tower. So that juxtaposition as well.
And then sitting in between, you get these church towers.
Yeah, there's a church in there, and our building just plonked in the middle.
So it's, cities are made up of lots of different shapes, and they create the space at the ground. Not always successfully in the city, I don't think. Sometimes it's just wind tunnels. But
yeah, in the city it can be pretty poorly thought out. But yeah, just walking around London, walking around parts of London that you haven't been to for a bit or at all, it can just, something will just spark your imagination.
Yeah.
As a creative person, it's just about remaining always open. Bear in mind what you've got. It usually is about the project you're on, isn't it? Because that's where your mind is.
Where your mind's set, yeah.
And so stay open to those kind of influences. At the same time, though, always say keep a sketchbook, because you never know when an idea that comes up, it might not fit into that project, but it might come into a project, the next project, or a project 5 down the line. If you're doing lots.
Cool.